Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario, and right here we're at my desk where I'm going to be giving you all a little bit of a controller comparison. Now, I actually want to do a video a lot like this, or, include this in my video where I did the 2-year kind of look back retrospective, I guess a little bit of a review of the PlayStation 4 versus the Xbox One. Now, the reason why I did not include this part, because I recorded part of it, the reason why I didn't include it was because, one, I didn't think it was up to par with what I wanted, and two, that video was already really long. If you want to see it, be my guest. I'm going to put a link down below in the description or hopefully somewhere on screen, but somewhere available on this video or in the video section where you would be able to see that. But it was already a really long video, and I decided to cut that out because I was trying to, that video was almost an hour, so I was trying to still cut it under that. And it wasn't supposed to be that long, but it just kind of happened. People enjoyed it, so that's what happened. But anyways, I've been requested a few times to make this type of video where it was, just my thoughts and a controller comparison between the PS4 Xbox One controllers, and I said, you know what, I'll bring in the Wii U as well too. So as you can see right here, we have this keyboard that I'm borrowing from a friend. We have this mouse as well too that I've had here for a bit, and if you want to know the best opinion or the best option, keyboard and mouse, and that's really the end of the video, so thanks for watching. No, but in all seriousness, I'm joking with that. Not really joking that keyboard and mouse would be the best. It's factually going to be the best, depending on a few different games, I guess. But it's going to be the most accurate and everything. But this isn't about keyboard and mouse. This is about game consoles. So we're going to go ahead, move the keyboard and mouse away from here, and we'll go ahead and start with the controller. So I have a few controllers right here, and the first one I'll go ahead and start off with because there's only one, and this would be the PlayStation 4 controller right here. Now, this controller is obviously just an extension. It's the DualShock 4, and it is just a natural extension of the other DualShocks in the Sony PlayStation series, but overall, I was actually very impressed at how good this controller was. Now, right here, you have the D-pad, which we've all come to know and love, and the D-pad is extremely comfortable. You have the home button right there, so the PlayStation button. And then the triggers, I personally did not like the triggers on the PlayStation 3 controller because the L2 and R2 used to be buttons, kind of like the L1 and R1 buttons, but then they changed them to triggers with the PlayStation 3 controller. For whatever reason, I didn't like them. I still use them and I don't like them, but this, I actually really like the triggers on here. They're also really sensitive as well, so it might depend, if you like that or not. But then you have your regular, X, circle, triangle, square buttons, although there's no longer start and select. You now have this whole pad right here, which I'll be honest, I'm kind of indifferent on. I really don't care too much about it. And start is, the equivalent of start is now options, and there's not really an equivalent of select. Select most of the time is now just somewhere on this pad, because this right here is the share button, where the share button, you hit that, and then you exit out somewhere, and you go over to, you can share things on Facebook, Twitter, or you can start live streaming. Now, I had said before, because I did kind of a little controller comparison before, and I said my problem is when I first got the PS4, was that I'd be playing a game, and if I wanted to bring up the map, I would do that, and then all of a sudden, my game would cut out, and it would say, do you want to share this screenshot, whatever it is, and a lot of people said, well, how the hell are you trying to press the select button when there's no select button on the controller? Listen, I played a bunch of games on the PS1 and 2, not so much on the PS3, but granted, the PS1 and 2 are consoles I grew up with. When I think, there's a button kind of in the middle to the left, my instinct is to go right there, not really to go right there where this big mouse pad type thing is. But now, this is also pretty nice because you can move that around if there's an option where you can do that, and there's also, technically 4 buttons on here. There's up, down, left, right, so you add more buttons right there. Works out well enough. It also has a rechargeable battery, and then the cable it uses is just a micro USB cable, which almost any type of device should have, well, mobile device. If you don't have that, you probably have something like that in your home. Now, they also made this controller bigger as well and elongated it compared to the DualShocks 1 through 3. There's also a speaker right there, which not really a big fan of, and probably my favorite feature on here is this down here, where you have the little extension, but more or less the actual headphone jack right there, which is a 3.5mm headphone jack, and this is really nice because you can actually just go ahead and hook up any type of earbuds, headset, whatever you want to, as long as you have a 3.5mm jack, and you can listen to, your teammates, or you can listen to all the game sounds through your controller. And that's really convenient, especially if you have roommates or if you're playing late at night and you don't want to, wake up family members or anything like that, and you don't want to spend a lot of money on a gaming headset. You can just grab any pair of earbuds, any headset, anything that uses a 3.5mm jack, and just plug it in, and you're good to go. It also supports microphone input through that as well, too. So if you have earbuds that do have a microphone on them, you could use those. I've done that. I've used them in live streams before and everything like that. It's pretty great. And then extension, that is just, if you need something that requires an extra extension, like probably a chat pad, anything like that. I have not used that. Now, also, the last thing I want to speak about on this controller before I get into really what I don't like about it, one of the last things is the analog sticks right here. Now, I personally like them, but there's also some drawbacks to them. Now, I don't know if this has been corrected in later revisions of this controller right here, but one big issue that this controller had, and at least the controllers I do have, are that these things wear down really fast. Like my PlayStation 1 through 3 thumbsticks, I don't ever remember them wearing out. These ones, they start to become like smooth, like they're originally, textured and rigid, which is what I like. These ones, because this controller I bought used, they're pretty smooth. Now, I don't know if this has been corrected in later revisions or newer controllers, anything like that, but at least on these older ones, you're going to have that issue. Now, I myself don't like it, when they get worn down because they become all slippery and you don't have as much of a grip, and they're not as comfortable as they used to be. So what I actually did was, now this is a little bit more advanced if you feel comfortable taking apart your controllers, but I actually went and I bought a pack of these type of thumbsticks. You cannot interchange them with previous gen thumbsticks because these ones are smaller. So I bought a pack of PS4 thumbsticks, and on my other controllers actually swap them out. Now, this controller is a lot more of a pain to open up than the previous one, so you're going to have to take that with a grain of salt. But then the last thing I want to talk about right here is this, which is the light bar, which I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. As you can see, my PlayStation turned on in the distance, and I don't like this light bar. Now, many people who've been on the channel for a while know I hate this light bar. I think it does not need to be there. I really don't think it serves much of a purpose. And some people might say, oh, it's a really cool feature. It's awesome. Well, look, I'll put it like this. I have a multitude of game systems, and I have never once been playing my video games and said, you know what? This controller is really nice. But it's not all that. You know what I need on this controller? I need a big-ass light in the front of the controller that I'm not going to be looking at directly if I'm playing this game. I think that is the one thing that I need on this controller for it to be perfect. I've never had that thought cross my head. Now, you could use this, for status indicators. So right now, it's blue. It's showing that I'm player 1. For example, if one of my friends comes over, they turn on their controller and they hook it up to my PS4, theirs would probably turn red, so that would be player 2. It could be a status, for example, if you're playing like Killzone and your health starts to go down, it will go, down to red. But it's pretty useless. The only thing I've really seen it be useful for is if you have the PlayStation camera and you want to do some cool stuff on there. But I'll put it like this. Hold on, I'll be right back. Now, this is my PlayStation camera. Do you see what the issue is? It's still in the box. I've had this thing for like 3 months, and I have not had a need to open it. I haven't wanted to open it or anything like that. I haven't wanted to use it, so it's just kind of still been in the box. Now, some people might say, oh, Mario, you have the Kinect. I do have the Kinect. I bought the Kinect when my Xbox One when it was required for the Xbox One. And when the Xbox One sucked with a controller on the interface, so it was easier to use the Kinect with. But as the updates for the Xbox One have gotten better and more optimized for a controller, I don't even use my Kinect anymore. So, I still have it. I still have it hooked up. It's out in the living room, but I don't use it. So, I don't know. If you want to use it, it's cool, but as you can see, this light is obviously really useful for something that I still have in the package and has been there for the past 2 or 3 months. Now, the final thing I want to say about this controller is the battery life. The battery life is horrible on this controller. Like, this battery will last you maybe less than 6 or 8 hours. Even if you turn this down to the lowest setting. This used to be on one setting. You cannot turn off the LED, which I think is absolutely stupid. But you can turn it down. There's 3 different settings. I have this on the lowest setting. And this controller, like the PS3 controller, as many people probably remember, the battery on there was excellent. I rarely remember having to charge my PS3 controllers. Now, this thing right here, let's say you want to have a all-day gaming session, you charge this up, before the day's over, you're going to have to charge it again. It's going to die, even if you have that on the lowest setting. You can go in and disable other things like vibration, and I'm sure, like 6-axis controls and all that, and I'm sure that might even help out. But you shouldn't have to do that to make it more usable. that doesn't need to be a thing. So another thing is some people have also said, which I don't know how they got this information because this is readily available, they've said, oh, it's because the battery is the same or it's smaller than the PS3 controller. It's actually not. The battery in here is better than the PS3's controller, but the battery in here lasts much less than the PlayStation 3's controller on a full charge. So I really like this controller. It's one of my favorites. I think it's a great controller and it's been built very well. Also, if you want to use it on a PC, it just uses Bluetooth. So as long as you have a Bluetooth adapter available for your PC, or if you just want to wire it in, you can use it just fine. You might have to change around the drivers, like have it recognized as an Xbox 360 controller for better compatibility, but mind you, it is a great controller overall. But the battery life is absolutely horrendous on there. I don't think that was, there was a need for that at all. And I actually ended up warming up to this right here, the actual like mouse pad, touchpad type thing. But then the speaker, not too crazy about it, honestly. But overall, really great controller. Now, next up, we're going to have, a system that I'll have two controllers to review with. We will have the Wii U controller. So first off, a lot of people might say, okay, this thing's absolutely ridiculous. It's a gimmick. It's not needed. And while some of those things, might be true depending on who you talk to and all that, I have to say, this is one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever held. And I know it's not supposed to be comfortable, it doesn't look comfortable, but trust me, it's like you just put your hands on it, you grasp it, and everything, it's really comfortable. It fits great in your hands. I haven't had an issue with it. And this is for, like people like me who are an adult. I'll have, kind of bigger hands, or a kid that will have smaller hands. I haven't seen anybody have any issues with this controller right here. Now, this is required with the Wii U. Unfortunately, if you do not have this gamepad, there's actually some things you cannot do with the Wii U. For example, you cannot change your settings without this gamepad. So there are a few weaknesses with that. Now, this gamepad right here, it has a battery that you can remove pretty easily, and you might want to, because I have the stock battery, but the battery in here is not very good. The battery in here might last, I don't know, less than 5 or 4 hours, something like that. So you're going to want to make sure you have a charger nearby. But what I like about this is with mini games, you can make this independent of the console itself. Meaning if you have the console hooked up, let's say you're playing on your TV and you want somebody wants to use the TV, you can actually most of the time play the game on just the gamepad right here with mini games that are available. In addition to that, you also have an IR blaster right there, so you could use it as an overglorified remote. Volume, because you do have speakers available, a stylus for the actual touchscreen, because that is a touchscreen, and then you also have a proprietary charger, so make sure you don't lose that charger, and it's not the same as the DS charger, 3DS charger, so definitely don't lose that. And you're also going to have right here the headphone jack, so you can listen to everything. The L and the ZL and R and ZR buttons right there work very well. I think the placement of them has been great, and then the thumbsticks also click in. The D-pad works out quite well. There's also a front-facing camera as well too, along with NFC, a microphone, and a few other things. Now, I like this controller, but of course, not a lot of people are going to like, kind of the weight to it, the way it's shaped and everything, and also just having the big screen right there. And that is understandable, especially when there are many games where all they do is just reflect the image that you're playing on your TV on your screen. I would like an option, to be able to turn that off. Now, some people will say, oh, there is. You can turn off the display on here. You can, but you can turn off the display, but as soon as you press any button, the display comes back and you see it right there. So it's kind of distracting when, let's say, I'm playing something on my screen right in front of me and I have the exact same thing right there down below. That's not going to be needed. For most games, this works out pretty well and it is really comfortable, but for example, I ended up getting Black Ops 2 for quite cheap on the Wii U. Picked it up, I was kind of interested to see how it plays, and it does play well, but with this controller, it's almost too big. I mean, it really is too big in my opinion, at least, so I haven't been a big fan of that. Now, the screen does look nice, but the screen is not an HD display. It is just a standard definition display. However, that is kind of masked by the fact that it is a smaller screen, so it won't bug you too much, and the Wii U will still be able to output up to 1080p in resolution. But aside from that, the controller works out well. It is going to be a necessity, so it's not like you can go without it, but let's say you do not want that controller at all. Well, you're still going to have to keep that over to the side, but we'll just go ahead and move it over to the side right here. And there's actually another controller that you can pick up, which is the Wii U Pro controller. Now, I was kind of iffy on this thing, but honestly, it's pretty comfortable. Now, it's not as comfortable as, other controllers, but I think it's pretty great. You have all the functions and everything right there, and it looks kind of like a mix between the PlayStation and the Xbox Xbox controls in a way. More of the Xbox control, it's kind of shaped like that. I'm not really liking, the positioning of the Z buttons right there, especially when on the actual Wii U gamepad, they're kind of anchored down there, while as these ones are quite similar to the PlayStation 1 and 2 buttons right there. Instead of micro USB, it's going to use mini USB, so a standard right there, which you'll probably have mini USB cables around, but we're more using micro USB for more and more things, so it does come with cables, which is pretty nice just in case you don't have one. Now, this is pretty standard. It's a light controller and not much to say about it, but the final thing I have to say really is the battery life is phenomenal on this thing. They tout up to 50 hours of battery life off one full charge, and I can agree with that, honestly. I think I've only charged my Wii U Pro controllers once or twice over the whole time I've had them, and they're pretty great. Now, the problem is there's also going to be some games that you cannot use this controller with. There's many games you can, but there's also games where the Wii U gamepad is going to be necessary. For example, you won't be able to use this on Splatoon. If you just want to play, single player, or you want to play alone multiplayer on there, you're going to have to use the actual gamepad for that. So, it's a great controller, don't get me wrong, but it is kind of held back with the dependency on the gamepad. But if you were thinking of picking this up, I would recommend it. And finally, last but not least, the Xbox One. So I have two different controllers here, as you can see. One's black, one's white, right? Well, there's a few more differences than that. So this is the standard Xbox One controller. And again, it's kind of a natural evolution of the Xbox 360 controller, which in my opinion is one of the best controllers ever made. And many people do agree with me on that. However, there's a few things I'm not really liking about it too much. Now, I've kind of warmed up to them later on, and I think it's also changed due to the actual build quality as well. This is one of the first controllers to come out, and I'll be honest, I don't like these bumpers. I really don't. The triggers are nice on there. I'm not a big fan of the thumbsticks on here, to be honest. The D-pad's better. It's been improved, majorly from the Xbox 360. And then the buttons themselves all seem to work just fine. Another thing right here is that this is the only controller, one big drawback, the only controller that does not have rechargeable batteries built in. It uses AA batteries. However, as you can see, I have AA rechargeable batteries, so that's not much of an issue, which I would highly recommend picking up. Now, as for the battery life, I don't have an actual number on here, but I'll say this, it's not as nice as the Wii U Pro controller, but it's also not as bad as the Wii U gamepad or the PlayStation 4 controller. Really, I do play my Xbox One more than the Wii U, for example, and probably about on par with the PS4, but I do change out my batteries, but I don't really have to do it that often. And by that, I mean most of the time if I do change my batteries, it's kind of just because I got a battery low message if I ever do get to that. I rarely have my batteries just flat out die on me. The last time I actually remember them dying on me was back when back before the update was implemented that actually gave you a warning showing you did not have that much battery life left. But aside from that, I know they said they spent a lot of money in research and development seeing how they could improve the Xbox 360 controller. I don't really feel it, personally. I wasn't really a big fan of this. Now, it also does not have a headphone jack on here, depending on which one you get. Now, the older one, that's it. But this is why I'm bringing in the Cloud White controller right here, which this one, honestly, just the build quality, it's heavier, and the build quality feels better. All of a sudden, I actually like the thumbsticks on here more compared to the thumbsticks on this controller, because this one has some more weight to it. The D-pad is still better. Yeah, it's still good on there. The buttons all feel about right. And the bumpers, although I still don't think they're as good as the Xbox 360's bumpers, they're better than, the original ones that came out. And then you have the triggers right there, and you don't have anything in the back like that. Now, two things that this controller has is, one, it has 3.5mm jack right there, so you could use, that for game audio and such, and I'm not sure about microphone input, to be honest. I have not gone into that because I just use the standard headphone jack right there, or the standard headset that comes with the Xbox One, but it also has, as you can see right here, a textured backing to it, which is a lot more comfortable than just, the smooth backing right here on the regular controller. So honestly, if you can get a controller that has all these extra bells and whistles, I would highly recommend getting it. It is going to be worth the extra money, and I really think, it's something with just the subtle build quality as well too. Because one of my friends, I remember, he's played his Xbox One a lot more than I have. He felt one of my newer controllers, and he immediately knew it was a new one. and I asked him how, and he was telling me he ranted about this controller. And he said, and I quote, he said the original Xbox One controller was a flimsy piece of shit. He absolutely hated it, but he loves the newer controllers. And honestly, just from, I mean, I'm even doing it right now, just from, touching one of them or picking it up, I can instantly feel a difference in build quality. So honestly, get a newer one if you can. Now, there's one more controller that I couldn't show you when I was going to do my previous video, but I can show you all now. And that's going to be, we'll go ahead and take these off here, this thing right here. Now, yes, this is a nice little overglorified pouch, but it's what's inside the pouch that matters, and that is the Xbox One Elite controller. Now, a lot of people, they've been touting this controller. A lot of people have been saying it's the best controller ever. It's supposed to put Scuff out of business. I think it is much better than a Scuff controller, and it is nice because it is now customizable, as you can see. Another thing with Xbox One controllers is that you're able to remap all the buttons and everything. You can also do that with the PS4 as well, but with the Xbox One controller, you could actually go in and completely customize almost anything on the Xbox One's UI. So that's like, the sensitivity with all this stuff right here. You could try different mappings. You could also, here, I really like this, the trigger stop. So check this out. This is a regular trigger, goes all the way down. You activate the trigger stop. It stops it right there, so you're hitting, that nice, that nice focal point right there. That would really help out in games like Call of Duty and things like that. So you also have, multiple different options as well. So you have a 1 or 2 selector where, let's say, I have a optimal setup for Call of Duty, and then I switch over to Forza. I can save that into bank number 2, and all my controls then switch over right there. So it is completely customizable. It's been made with better material as well too, so it is a lot heavier, a lot more sturdier and everything, and a much more comfortable controller as well. It does have the textured backing right on the inside and on the inside as well, on the outside as well too, along with these right here where you could actually use, since all these are customizable, you could throw on, different types of thumbsticks, different types of D-pads, and also there are 4 programmable buttons that you could use back here that are available, right here, if I can get one of them out. Point is, they're in there. You can take them out, you can put them on there, you can program them to your liking, all that fun stuff. This is a nice controller. Now, I don't think it's necessary, because some people are saying, as I said, it's the best controller ever. I don't think it is, personally. I think it's a very good controller. I think it's awesome that Microsoft does provide an option for this if you want to spend $150 on a controller. I got this one for less than $150, but point being, this is also kind of hard to find too. So I've actually wanted to say this in a video, and I'm glad I'm making this video now, because some people might be asking, they might ask, I want to get the Xbox One Elite controller, but I don't want to spend all the money. What do you think? If you're kind of in that middle ground where you like the Xbox One controller or you want a new controller, but you don't want to spend all the money on the Elite is good, but this is also an excellent alternative right here, and it's, standard pricing, so you can get this for about $60 US. This is the Xbox One Cloud White controller, and as I said, it doesn't have all the fancy bells and whistles or, the same heavier build quality that the Elite does right here. However, it does have, a better overall build quality and feel to it, the feel being down here with the grips, and it also has the extra features that the newer controllers have integrated in and everything, so that's nice as well. Now, one big thing, if you want to use this on your PC, you might have some issues hooking it up because the drivers are still quite new, but it does use micro USB again, so you could wire it in, or if you want to do it wirelessly, you are going to have to spend another $20 or $25 getting one of these things right here, which is a USB wireless adapter, so you're going to have to get that. But overall, that's kind of my comparison, contrast on all 3 controllers, well, multiple, I did like 6 controllers in this thing, with all 3 of the systems that are available. What is my favorite one? Well, it honestly kind of depends. I've been warming up to the Xbox One controller a lot more. This has honestly been my favorite out of the Xbox One controllers. I still think the Wii U gamepad is probably the most comfortable, but the PS4 is also, in my opinion, the most well-rounded controller of all of them out there. So tell me what you all think of this as well, too, and I hope this kind of, helped you all out and educated you all a bit as well. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.